Do you want to learn how to make plushies? Well, look no further. I'm Pixie, and I've been making plushies for about 3 years now. I'm here to explain the absolute basics to getting started. First things first, you might be wondering if you need a machine. And while it's not required, it will be exceedingly helpful. Here's a brief list of the pros and cons for each. Now, hand sewing is generally free, more accessible, and you will have to use it no matter what you do if you want to sew plushies. As for the cons, it will take significantly longer. It requires a lot of experience and skill to look neat, and it will put a lot more strain on your hands. So, if you're at risk of carpal tunnel, you will want to avoid hand sewing as much. Now, a sewing machine is going to be way faster. The stitches will turn out significantly neater, and it's a good household item to have in general. It can be used for just about any project you can think of. The major con, though, is it can be pretty expensive and it's not very portable. Some people have also told me they're intimidated to learn to use a sewing machine, but I honestly think it's pretty easy to use. You can use online classes or go to in person classes locally, and you can learn to use a sewing machine. I highly recommend investing in a sewing machine though. You can find them for pretty good prices secondhand, and you might even be able to find a local library or like public institution that has a machine available for like the community to use. You can also reach out to your friends or family to see if they have a machine you can borrow. Chances are someone you know does. It's okay if you prefer to hand sew though. You can do all the same things a machine does. You're just limited by your own patience and like your dexterity. Now, onto the more complex part. How are plushies constructed? The most crucial part to understanding plushie construction is understanding seams. Seams are the point in which separate pieces of fabric are stitched together. Seams are what form the shape of the plushie, turning it from a flat piece of fabric into a 3D sculpture. One type of seam that you'll see frequently in plushie patterns is called a dart. Darts are like V shapes. They're sewn through the fabric to give it more shape. For example, look at this piece of paper. It's flat, but when I cut a dart into it, I can form it into a more bulbous shape. You can even use different dart shapes for more smooth or more pointy outcomes. But now you're probably wondering, Pixie, how do I make a plushie pattern? I'll explain the full process in the later video, but for now, I'll give you the basics. There are two different ways people make plushie patterns. Some people make a small sculpture, usually out of clay, and cover it in tape. Then they mark where they want their seams to be, cut off the tape, and lay it all flat. Sometimes it doesn't lay flat and they have to cut a line into it, hence a dart being formed. The other method of making a pattern is done by creating a 3D model. This is a method I use. I'll make a model in Blender, mark seams on it, and then have it digitally converted into a sewing pattern. Either way, the premise is the same. Take a 3D sculpture, mark where you want your seams to be, and make all the pattern pieces lay flat. Since you're sewing the pieces together, you'll need a bit of extra space on the pattern to leave room for sewing. This is called seam allowance. Some patterns include it, and some patterns don't. You can have as much or as little seam allowance as you want, but you need to be able to properly sew with it. About a centimeter of seam allowance is the amount people normally use. It varies from pattern to pattern though, so pay close attention. You will also notice that when you are sewing, one side will have the ugly edges of the fabric jutting out, whilst the other side will be your pretty seam. Since you are always sewing on the ugly edge side of the fabric, you must sew all your projects right side together. For plushies, this generally means sewing the fluffy sides together. Never forget this! But wait, Pixie, doesn't this mean I'm sewing the plushie inside out? Yes! This is important to remember because you need to leave a large enough hole in the plush in order to flip the entire thing inside out. This is also the hole you will use to stuff the plushie, so don't forget to make it big enough. That's about all you need to know about patterns. But what about sewing the fabric pieces together? First things first, you can't just go sewing willy nilly. You need to pin the pieces together first. Use as many sewing pins as necessary to keep the pattern in place, but try to remove them right before sewing over them. If you don't remove them, your needle can hit the pins and it can mess up like your sewing needle, so don't leave them in. As for sewing, there are two main stitches that you will need to know for plush making: the straight stitch and the ladder stitch. Now, the straight stitch is the basic stitch that you use to sew everything together. It's like the default stitch on your sewing machine, and you probably already know this stitch. Then there's the ladder stitch. This is how you close up your finished plushie. It can also be used to attach extra components to your plushie. I like to call it the hidden stitch because in the end, it should be completely hidden. Another stitch you might want to be aware of, but it isn't really necessary for plushie making, is the satin stitch. It's like a really tight zigzag stitch, and you will frequently see this stitch used for embroidered or applique parts of plushies. Now that we got all the basic construction stuff out of the way, you're probably wondering what fabric you should use to make plushies. Don't worry, I got you. Here are the four main fabric types that you'll encounter in plush making. The first type of fabric is fleece. Fleece is what most beginner plush makers use. It's stretchy, soft, accessible, and very easy to work with. If you're new to sewing and plush making, this is what I recommend starting with. It won't have a fluffy fur-like quality like most plushies have, but it's still very soft. Hobby Lobby has some great anti-pill fleece. I found other brands are like thicker and more difficult to work with. The next type of fabric is minky. This is what most plushies are made of, period. Minky is like a very short faux fur, except it is very stretchy. I don't recommend starting out with minky though, since it can be very slippery to work with. You will need to use a lot of pins to keep everything in place. Also, cutting it will leave little fuzzies everywhere. Honestly, I'm not sure if you're supposed to wear a mask, but you probably should. The best brand of Minky is Shannon Plush Minky, but you can only order it online. Hobby Lobby also has Minky that works pretty well. Another common fabric you'll see is faux fur. This should be pretty self explanatory. It's synthetic fur fabric, and is generally not stretchy like Minky is. When cutting this stuff, the fur sheds everywhere, so you need to wear a mask and work in a space that's okay getting messy. Think of it like trimming pet hair, but with microplastics. Personally, I haven't worked with it much because I hate getting the fur everywhere. I've only really found good faux fur online. You can get it from places like howfabrics.com or fursuitsupplies.com. Last but not least is felt. So this one's a bit different. Felt is a much stiffer fabric. It's not stretchy or it's not soft like these other options, but it's a lot cheaper, and you can get a variety of different colors in small amounts. I generally use this fabric to applique on small details like facial features or eyes, but some people make entire plushies out of felt. These plushies, though, are generally considered like artworks for display more than for cuddling. You can find felt at practically any craft store, so this is a very accessible and affordable option. Now, hold on a second. Before we're done talking about fabric, we need to talk about nap and stretch. This mostly applies to minky and faux fur, but when we're working with these fabrics, you will notice that the fur fibers flow in a certain direction. This is called the nap. And when you're working with a stretchy fabric, it will be stretchiest in the direction perpendicular to the nap. This is called the stretch. Most patterns will have arrows that display the nap and the stretch direction, so you'll need to match up those arrows to the nap and stretch on your fabric. I have one more thing to go over: detail work. Chances are your plushie has a face or intricate markings. There are many methods people use to accomplish these small details, but here are some of your options. First off, we have plastic/glass eyes and noses. This is what you see on most commercial plushies. They generally allow for you to make a more realistic plush, but at the cost of your plush being less soft and cuddly. This also only really applies to plushies that are not human. Next up is machine embroidery. It's precise, cuddly, customizable, and detailed. The only thing is, it's costly and less accessible. You either have to have an embroidery machine or you have to commission a local embroidery business to do the details for you. Then you have hand embroidery. This one is easily accessible, it's still cuddly like machine embroidery, it's endlessly customizable and detailed. The only thing is, you are limited by your own time and embroidery skill. Last but certainly not least is applique. Applique is easily accessible, cuddly, still really customizable, and less detailed depending on your skill. There's certainly a learning curve involved with it, but it's way less time consuming than hand embroidery. And that is all of the plushie basics. Now, I just covered really basic concepts, and this is my first ever video, so sorry if like the audio's weird. But thank you for sitting through. I will try to make more videos if this is successful, and if you have any comments or questions, please comment below. I will try my best to answer.